And here we are down to the bottom left-hand corner of Daybreak. We have our pink Zerg player from Team SEV Life that's won 2 games in a row. Looking for his third, it is RevivaL. And his opponent here in the top right-hand corner, needing his team's revival a little bit of his own. It is our red Zerg player, Acer.ParanOid.
It's a match of revivals, both metaphorical and literal.
Yes.
And we will see if Paranoid can start the literal one. He's going to try to literally revive his team's chances.
That's right.
And tie things up here. Daybreak is another great map for a ZVZ. It offers us a lot of options in terms of strategies that the players choose to employ, and should be in for a good game.
If you ever had that moment as a commentator when you look up and things are totally normal, like there was 9 Overlord from Paranoid, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
You look up and there was 115 resources there for Paranoid. He was on 9 supply and he hadn't clicked the Overlord yet. And like for that split second when my mind looked at that and reacted, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be a 9 pool. No, it's not.
They used to get us all the time in the GSL actually, and you'll see it happen to like Tasteless and Artosis too every once in a while too, where because you go into the game a little bit later. Yeah. So sometimes you'll see them put their pool down or something like, oh, it's a 6 pool, but it's like, no, it's a normal pool, but you're just getting into the game a little bit later because of the intros. So yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It does happen.
Yeah. Well, it is as normal could be. It looks like it's going to be a 15 hatch for RevivaL versus a 16 hatch for Paranoid. That's the only real discernible difference. So an extra drone out there for Paranoid to start things off.
Yep. It's about right. Hatch first. Like I said, the last 2 games, I'll say it again this game just in case we've got some people tuning in, because I like to say it, I guess, too. It's kind of the standard right now in ZVZ. Not a lot that players generally kind of need to worry about. Both players going with pool before gas as well. Every once in a while you see a Zerg player get gas before pool, and while you can do that and it does get you Zergling speed a little bit faster, it's a little bit riskier because you are going to have things like your queens and your Zerglings just a little bit later, and in ZVZ it's a match of seconds, so each second could really mean the difference between life and death. So most Zergs will opt to get that gas second, and that's what we're seeing out of both of our players here in this game.
Yep, and nothing too out of the ordinary. Gas coming up for about the same time for both these players. Of course, Paranoid is just a little bit behind on all of his structures coming up because he did decide to get that extra drone right at the beginning. But that's the only discernible difference between these guys so far. The map is Daybreak, though. More often than not, because of the way the running paths worked, I've seen a lot of just Roach and Fester play here. But these guys certainly could have something creative up their sleeve.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of wait and see. You generally kind of have the same sort of first 3 or 4 minutes out of, real-time minutes rather, out of a ZVZ in most cases, unless it ends up being super, super aggressive. And then from there on, you kind of see who ends up continuing to get gas, who stops, who gets a Roach Warren, who gets their lair, et cetera, et cetera. So we're about to see, I think, all that sort of stuff go down. We're getting close. We've got Zergling speed coming up for a RevivaL and Paranoid, so there.
So there indeed.
Well, there.
Yes.
Got queens injecting.
Yeah, Paranoid immediately starting a 3rd queen, though, and a 4th queen. No, just a 3rd queen, as I say in the same sort of inflection. Yep, 3 queens up for him. RevivaL going to be content with 2 for the time being, and we'll see if he gets down that Baneling Nest just a little bit quicker than his opponent. We do already see the Evolution Chamber coming up for Paranoid, though.
Oh, that's actually really interesting. I think we're going to see, well, I feel like we're going to see one of 2 things. We're either going to see a pretty quick Roach Warren along with this, and then +1 missile attacks and a timing with that, possibly. Or what we're going to see is +1 Carapace, and then just kind of a lot of Speedlings, possibly, to counteract the Banelings. He may even decide to skip the Baneling Nest, too, and just kind of go for Lair, and then use his slightly more durable Zerglings to kind of, make that work, basically. But that's going to be interesting. And yeah, +1 Carapace going down for Paranoid. So definitely something that does work, but an interesting take on the ZVZ situation. So we'll see how that all works out, because RevivaL is going with that Baneling Nest.
Yes, he is. So we'll see here now how both these play out. Zergling speed just finishing up for Paranoid now, and he does have a ton of Speedlings hitting the field now. 16 of them in a row, and he is going to put on some pressure. Now, what is RevivaL going to be able to offer? A 3rd base coming up for him at the moment. He's morphing in a couple of defensive Banelings, but taking his base at about the same time that Bly did last go-around, so a very early expansion for him.
And to a certain extent, Paranoid is going to be able to kind of laugh at those Banelings if he controls well enough, because remember, once +1 Carapace finishes, it's going to take 2 hits to kill those Zerglings. Even though the Zerglings will be at very low health after the Baneling hits, the extra damage that they do really does make a big difference. So Paranoid is just going to try to bludgeon his opponent to death here with some Speedlings, and +1 Carapace's timing slightly off. It's not quite done when the Speedlings show up, so he's still going to need to micro very carefully. Oh, and that is not carefully.
No.
That's kind of the opposite.
Well, let's see here if he can continue to get damage done inside of the natural. He takes out a Queen, but he's already lost a lot of these Zerglings, so not going to be able to get near as much damage done as he would have liked. 10 more Zerglings on the way now, but already the first Roaches are coming up for Revival, and that's going to nullify that +1 Carapace, because it's not going to be Banelings that are defending here.
Yep, that's right. So what was a pretty strong attack, and what will still be, you know, a pretty strong attack potentially if he decides to send the Zerglings that he just made across the map, kind of turned into something that didn't really do a whole lot. He does have +1 Carapace, so that's going to be, you know, nice to have, but he definitely would have wished to, or definitely wanted to get a little bit more done with that, wanted to deny that third. But, you know, in ZVZ, one little misclick, 1 millisecond of miscontrol, and you lose, you know, you're pretty much all attacking force, especially if you attack before Carapace finishes.
Yeah, and Layer Tech's coming up for both players at the moment, actually coming up at the third for Revival, which is kind of clever. Sometimes you'll see players take it over at the natural, but the third is a little bit out of the way.
That seems overly risky to me, actually, because that's exactly where Paranoid's going to want to send his Zerglings as well. So interesting to see if Revival will be able to defend this. Paranoid, oh, not being careful with those Zerglings. Very sloppy. Oh, man. Yeah, I think Revival's actually going to be just fine. He's going to lose another Queen here, but Paranoid just not really paying attention to his Zerglings like he needs to.
Yeah, needs to get a few units over there, of course. Layer Tech does just finish up, and it looks like he's pulling his drones off the line and has the additional Roach in there as well. So some of those got very low, but those drones didn't die.
Yep. That's about it. Looks like there is a Speedling counterattack here by Paranoid, too. Decided to take advantage of the fact that Revival doesn't have a lot of Roaches out quite yet. Still able to just use those Speedlings to clean that up.
Yeah, so Paranoid is able to clean up those Roaches from Revival there, but let's see what he's going to move into. It's a Roach Warren of his own. It has been a long time in coming. He is a little bit faster than his opponent to +1 weapons. Oh, but these Zerglings are able to slip inside of the main. Is there anything there waiting for it? No, looks like another Queen is going to go down.
Well, killing Queens over and over again like this is a nice way to get ahead when you are playing that kind of pure Speedling style in the early parts of the game, and he's focusing down a lot of drones, too. So some damage done, but the question is, you know, again, is it worth it? We do see Revival starting to take a bit of a supply lead, despite the fact that he is, you know, losing those Queens, losing a few drones here and there. Doesn't seem like it's really phasing him all that much.
No, he's taking quite a big supply lead. He's up by 50 supply, as a matter of fact. So, and in a mirror matchup, I mean, it's the supply gets, you know, exacerbated a little bit. You know, because when you're in a TVZ, you're like, okay, well, Zerg should be ahead in supply. Same thing in ZVP, but in that mirror matchup, that becomes quite an important statistic.
Yeah, absolutely. So Revival sending some Roaches across the map now, and Paranoid making some Roaches of his own. Now, the nice thing for Paranoid in this situation is that his Roaches are already 1-1, whereas Revivals only have the +1 attack. So Paranoid's Roaches will be a little bit more durable, and he is catching up in supply now that he's been able to kind of get that Roach production really flowing here, and we'll have to see just how effective this is going to be from Revival.
Yeah, it looks like Revival just pushing it with so many forces right now. This is insane. He is just going to overwhelm his opponent there. We'll see if Paranoid is able to hold on at all. He's bringing in a few Speedlings as well, but reinforcements making their way in for Revival now. Paranoid does have 1-1 finished up to his opponent's just +1 weapons. Don't forget, he got that Carapace way back in the beginning of this game. It's making his units quite a bit stronger, and it looks like he will be able to hold for now. But Revival is still up by over 30 supply.
You know, that's why I actually really like that attack. He saw a situation where he could overwhelm a small group of Paranoid's Roaches and also get a couple Queens too, and he even ended up getting a lot of drones out of that too. So despite the fact that he didn't kill the hatchery, didn't exactly quote-unquote win the fight, he still definitely was a lot more efficient in the damage that he did. Big Speedling counterattack coming across the map for Paranoid right now.
Yeah, loses a few Speedlings en route, but it looks like he's just going to swing his way over to the third, which, of course, is relatively undefended, as we know. However, it should give Revival enough time to react, and indeed he is pulling back his forces at the moment, so Paranoid just kind of delaying for now and has to run back home.
Yep, still down by about 30 supply. Losing all those drones at the third did certainly hurt. He also lost a lot of his roaches as well. What is the total roach count actually right now with these players?
23 to 29 in favor of Revival, and Revival's up by 12 workers as well.
Yeah, so that all adds up for a pretty good situation again for our TSL Zerg player, you know, just kind of getting in there, chipping away at his opponent with these attacks. You know, we'll see if he's able to kill this hatchery this time. Reinforcements will be coming pretty fast here from Paranoid, and I think Revival is going to probably pull back here. Well, looks like he actually, oh, that was so smart, man. He pulled part of his roach army back, got a little bit of a flank on some of Paranoid's roaches, and that ended up working beautifully.
Yeah, it did. Despite the fact that he's still down an upgrade, he is reinforcing very, very quickly. He's up by 50 supply now, continuing to push ahead, burrowing his hurt roaches as well over and over again.
GG.
There's GG, and Revival is just taking his third game in a row for TSL.
Yeah, really well played by TSL Revival there. That little attack right at the end, that was really awesome, man. I mean,